right. Well, I've got 10 o'clock on my computer. I'm not sure. Of course, the want to say those are not with the live in the Northeast District of Eugene, which you say, well, what is that? Well, the city of Eugene is divided up into 6 districts, and we use that division for the Eugene Emergency Communications System that was developed about 3 years ago. So the Northeast District consists of neighborhoods and houses that are north of the Willamette River and east of the Willamette River and west of I-5 and south of the McKenzie River. So that makes up the Northeast District. The West District of Eugene are housing associations and houses that are north of First Avenue, west of the Willamette River. So the other 4 districts, the Southwest District consists of houses, as my clock is telling me, my grandfather clock is telling me it's 10 o'clock. It's slow, 2 minutes slow. So the Southwest District is consists of houses and homes west of Chambers and south of First Avenue. So the other 3 districts are made up of Southeast 1, Southeast 2, and Southeast 3. I'm not sure if I can remember all of the neighborhoods, but Southeast 1 is the Southeast neighborhood and South Hills. Southeast 2 is made up of Whitaker, Friendly neighborhood. Jefferson West Side, I think Downtown, and I can't remember the other ones. And Southeast 3 is made up of Amazon. Nancy, help me out here. Amazon,
Fairmount, South University, and Laurel
yes.
Hill.
Thank you, Nancy. Yeah. So that's how the districts are made up. So Northeast districts, we want to welcome you, those that are not in the Northeast District, here for our training. A lot of folks wanted to have some training, basic type training on FRS and FRS, and also just general communications. So when we get started, Mike is going to help me out. Mike McCarnack, he's going to help me out. There he is. He's going to mute everybody, and then he's going to monitor the people. If you have a question, you could put it in the chat box, or you could go down to the reactions on your status bar at the bottom, and click on the hand, and a hand will come up on your picture, and so Mike will let me know if there's questions and things like that. But that way he can mute folks, and we won't have any background noises and things like that may disturb one another. All right. Any questions before I get into the share my screen and do the PowerPoint and get going? Oh, all right. We got a thumbs up on Dawn and Robert. All right, let's get going. So let's share this up here. All right, here we go. So what I have done with this, let me move this up out of the way. There we go. So I put this PowerPoint together, and I borrowed different slides from different CERT training PowerPoints to put together, and kind of I cut out some of the wordiness and kind of just got straight to the meat on this. So we're going to talk about basic training and basic radio communications. That would be helpful in your neighborhood using FRS or GMRS radios or even ham radios. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And we'll kind of just go through them each slide and talk about, like I said, if you have any questions, either put it in the chat or raise your hand. So looking at the neighborhood level, we have damage assessment teams, and it doesn't just have to be damage assessment teams. Your neighborhood group may have medical teams, or you may have groups, have a team that is made up of personnel that are skilled and qualified to use chainsaws. That could be dispatched to clear roadways so first responders could get through. Of course, we all have experienced just a couple of weeks back the ice storm. That was pretty severe, and there were things that were blocking the roadway. I know I watched some film out in I think Lowell area, and the neighbors out there were clearing down trees to get them out of the road. So the damage assessment team or other teams, they will report to their team radio team leader using an FRS radio or a GMRS radio, whichever that they're using. And then in turn, the radio team leader then passes on information to the neighborhood ham using the same radio, FRS or GMRS radio. So that's kind of like a flow chart of how comms will go from the street within a neighborhood on up to a neighborhood ham. So radio team leaders or neighborhood hams, they got to maintain communication with all the teams during the incident. This is very important because during the incident, whatever it may be, even if it's the 9.0 earthquake that we've been all preparing for quite some time, or a massive ice storm and snowstorm or whatever, or and the world that we live in today, a terrorist would take out the northwest area of the United States power grid and knock things out. So with that being said, is whatever teams are out surveying the neighborhoods and passing on information, you need to maintain communications with that to make sure that everyone is safe. And so that there's no drop in communications on that. And like we experienced with the ice storm a couple weeks back, we know what happens when you lose power. You can't get gas at the gas station because there's no power. It's hard to go to a store to buy things. Their cash register is not going to work if there's no power. And they're going to, if they can't make any change and you just have a large bill, you either give them the large bill or you just go without whatever you need to buy. So it's good to keep communications with whatever teams you have out there. And this means use whatever works, either your phone, cell phone, pen and paper, or smoke signals, or send a runner to make sure that everybody is okay. But when all else fails, we want to use radio, and that's what this training is about, is using the radios that we have. So to be effective, we need to learn to use emergency communications and kind of use them in a proper, correct way. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the Family Radio Service, or FRS. A lot of people know them as that. The FRS is kind of like the walkie-talkie that people have used for a long time to go hunting or camping, with the kiddos, so you can keep track of the kids if they go run off and they go play here or whatever. A lot of times you'll give them a walkie-talkie to tell them, okay, it's time to come home or whatever, it's lunchtime or whatever, but or keep in contact with fellow hunters so you don't shoot each other. FRS radios were used in that way, two-way communications, and they provide a relative, a clear communication signal, but the range is not that long. It could be a half a mile or maybe a mile. I know that Matt Alberson over in Northwest District, they had some good range on their FRS radios because there was not much to obstruct them and it's pretty well flat. There was not a lot of tall buildings, and I believe, Matt was able to communicate from his location on Maxwell Road just about all the way down to the bridge, I think, going over the railroad tracks there on Chambers. So it's quite a good distance. But the FRS radios are half watts, and nowadays the most they are going to be 2 watts. And you do not need a FCC license to use these things. This is a picture of what some of the FRS radios may look like. I have one of these. Actually, I have 2 of these. Motorola's, most of mine are Motorola's and Midlands. I've got 2 that kind of looks like this, and I got 2 like this. And then I have 2 other Motorola radios that are just kind of gray. My Midlands does not have the on-off switch. It has a power button along the side that just turn it on. And my Motorola's that is kind of gray. It does not have a on-off switch. It just has a power button. But you may have some of these in your possession already. So that's what an FRS radio will look like, similar. So like I said, that's the FRS radio. Now we kind of look at the GMRS radio. GMRS stands for General Mobile Radio Service. Now this radio, it does need to have an FCC license, Federal Communication Commission license. There's no test to it. It's $35 for 10 years. It used to be $70. When I got my GMRS license, it cost me $70. All I had to do was go make an account on the government's FCC webpage. I send them their money, and when they got my money, they sent me my license. So that was about it. But the license covers, this is kind of a neat thing, very interesting. License covers all family members, and that includes aunts, uncles, grandparents, cousins, whoever's that is in the household or whatever. They are all covered under the GMRS license that you have gotten. Which is a pretty neat thing on that covers the family. GMRS license, they do share the same channels that the FRS license have. They share channels 1 through 7 and 15 through 22. You may say, well, what about channels 8 through 14? Channels 8 through 14 on the FRS radio, they are automatically powered down to a half a watt. And GMRS radios do not go to half watts. GMRS radios, I do believe, can go to 2 watts as a low power, and then they can go to a higher power, what they were built for, either 5 watts. And some GMRS radios are rated at 8 watts of power. So GMRS radios cannot operate on channels 8 through 14 because they are half watts. GMRS radios also can use external antennas, which means that the little stubby antenna that comes with the radio can be twisted off, which is this thing right here, if you can see my pointer. It'll twist off, and you could purchase a magnetic mount antenna that you could put on top of your vehicle and then run the antenna cable in through the window and then screw it into your radio here, which will give you a little bit longer range and a better reception and transmission on that. So that's what they talk about here, that you can have external for power portable radio. I have run into and that some GMRS radios antennas do not twist off. Susan Sanders, which is on this Zoom, she has a GMRS radio and her antennas do not come off. And so when I saw her radios, I said, "No, you got FRS," because that was the defining thing. What defines it? Because they both look alike. What defines an FRS radio and what defines a GMRS radio? Well, at the time was GMRS, you could twist off the antenna and put another antenna on. Well, her GMRS radio antennas do not. So they threw that in there, messed me up. Also, GMRS radios can cover hundreds of miles using a repeater. We have I'm trying to think of the, not Comcast, but maybe somebody on there, I can't think, Radiocom, it's a company here in town. They have set up a GMRS repeater on channel 15, but you have to know how to put in a tone and also do an offset. And so in our April training that we're going to do, which will not be a Zoom, but we're going to meet in the back parking lot of North Kinsey Christian Church on Crescent. And we're going to do like a little exercise, and everyone is invited to show up. We'll kind of divide up into teams, and we're going to pass some radio traffic using FRS radios. But also that day, we're going to have an individual come and give a demonstration on how to connect to a GMRS repeater using your radio. So that will be interesting. So that will be the second Saturday in April, and at 10 a.m., 10 to noon at North Kinsey Christian Church, and you're all invited. So that will talk about repeaters. Well, like I said before, at 5 watts or 8 watts allowed to share on the FRS channels. And it is somewhat a kind of moderate high cost. FRS radios, Bi-Mart during Christmas time had a pair of Midland FRS radios selling for, was it $19.99 a pair? And then before that, I think in November, they had the same pair for $29.99. So sometimes Bi-Mart will have sales on FRS radios. Jerry's does the same thing, and you can always find them at Walmart. But Jerry's and Bi-Mart seems they have sales. They put them in their sale flyers. Every now and then they'll have FRS radios for sale. GMRS radios are a little bit more spendy. I bought a pair through Amazon.com, Baofeng, manufactured by Baofeng, and I bought a pair of GMRS radios, and the whole thing with the rechargers and everything else, they were $59. So they're a little bit more spendy. GMRS radios, they have a total of 30 channels, and of course we already mentioned that 22 FRS GMRS are combined. Actually, not 22. Add up 1 through 7 and 15 through 22. That's how many GMRS can use of the FRS channels. And then they have 8 repeater channels that the they can use as well. Using a GMRS radio at a higher power on channels 1 through 7, 15 through 22. If you are using a high power, you will overpower the FRS radio channels that are being used. And we had some experience with that. One of the citywide exercise we had so happened, I do believe that Cal Young neighborhood is the same FRS channel as what Friendly neighborhood was using. Now, Cal Young uses channel 6. And if Thea's on there, I think they were using channel 6 as well. Well, we had a ham radio operator that was using his GMRS radio to talk to the Lariat Drive damage assessment team. And so he kicked his radio up to max power. Well, he was kind of jumping all over the Friendly neighborhood group with his radio. And probably because where his location from his home, he was just north of the river, over by, I think, over by the Country Club Road area, and Friendly's not that far away south of him. So anyway, kind of have to watch that to not have max power on that. But this can all be worked out with testing with one another and doing some training and testing with the radios. So it's recommended that 10 teams use low wattage on the different radio types of being used in close proximity. We also recommend that enter teams, like a damage assessment team that want to talk to one another, they use the channels 8 through 14.5 watts, so they don't bump up against someone else. Any questions so far? Mike, anybody got hands up? Mike, just let me know, just jump in if there's anybody has any questions, because I can't see anything. All right. So about the GMRS radios, like I said, it's a FCC. They changed the rules in 2017. It used to be the FRS and the GMRS radios, they were combined. And so they kind of left it up to the people to do the right thing if they had a combined radio, that if they didn't have a GMRS license, they wouldn't use the GMRS power. Well, that didn't work out well. I guess people are not honest. So FRS and GMRS combination radios, they stopped manufacturing those in 2019. So they're no longer sold, but they are still out there somewhere. So these existing radios, they will be reclassified as either FRS or GMRS now, to remove the confusion, or whether you need a license or you don't need a license. Maybe that's where Susan's radio came into play. I'm not sure. But if you have a dual service radio, FRS/GMRS radio, it is limited to channels and power limits of the FRS. Then if you do that, then you can use the device and operate it without a license. Does that clear? Does that make sense, folks? All right. So here's our channels. As you can see, the difference. Like I said, channel 1 through 7, 2 watts. That's a medium power for FRS. 5 watts or 8 watts for GMRS. Channels 8 through 14 is a ½ watt low power for FRS. And now they're saying here that GMRS goes to 5 watts. So maybe it does automatically go down. I thought that they couldn't even operate on that wattage. So I'm going to have to research this area, because I was under the assumption that GMRS did not go down to 5 watts. So I'll have to check on that. But anyway, so channels 15 through 22 is back up to 2 watts max medium power for FRS. And then these channels, the GMRS can go up to 50 watts, and that's where your repeaters come into play. 50 watts, you can get some distance on that. the MyComm people that have loaned a repeater for our area, that repeater can reach Cottage Grove, Crestwell, Blue River, Veneta, and Harrisburg. But it's only one channel. You just have to go on that one channel. So it's not something that you could use within the neighborhood, because then you'll have everybody and his brother all trying to talk on that one channel. So it's not very good to have for inter-neighborhood communications. So let's talk about the ham radios, the amateur radio service. It is a licensed radio service. It has many radio bands and different types of radios. Ham radios, they are handheld, or they could be another type of radio, kind of like your old, looks like your CB that you used to have in your car, or you could have a radio that would sit on a shelf.
And Andy,
Yes.
I've got a question from Matt.
All right, Matt, go ahead. Is he unmuted there, Mike?
I think he's open.
What's up, Mike? What's up, Matt?
Question was, what channel is this alleged GMRS repeater on?
It's on channel 15, and I don't have. I'm not sure if it's 100 hertz tone, but there's also some offset. I have to get the particulars on that. But April, the second Saturday in April, we're going to have a demonstration on and like a little workshop, so to speak, on how to connect to that repeater.
Okay.
After we do our little exercise in the parking lot.
All right.
Okay. So ham radios are handheld portable devices mostly, and the ham radio community calls them handy talkies. Military, we call them hand transceivers. They could transmit and receive. I'm not sure. Mike told me that handy talkies came from, that was the manufacturer a number of years back, and that maybe the ham community kind of grabbed a hold of that name and went with it. Not sure, but in the military, we just had hand transceivers. That's what the HT stand for. So for the most part, they are on VHF or UHF. They have like 2 meters and 440s. VHF is usually in the 100 and say the 100 megahertz range, and the UHF is up in the 400 megahertz range frequencies. Hand transceivers radios on these bands, they provide a good clarity over a much longer range than a GMRS and FRS radio. That's a no-brainer. It has they usually connect a lot of times with a repeater or simplex and not going through a repeater. But they do have they have a little bit more power, and they have a little bit longer range. Ham radio is a licensed radio through the FCC. It used to be free, but since they lowered the GMRS license from $70 to $35, the FCC now charges $35 for your ham radio license. So you know the government's not going to lose out on money. They're still getting their $70. So so now they get their $70 from GMRS and hams, and you do have to take a test. You have to go into multiple choice test. It's a kind of like an electronic test. It's a very nerdy, brainy type test that you have to study for. So here's a comparison of the different radios that we talked about so far. We got the FRS radio, half mile to maybe a mile. The price, they say 15 to 80 bucks. I would not pay 80 bucks for FRS. But and then you got your GMRS, maybe 1 or 2, 3 miles. You're going to pay a little bit more. The FRS, they say double A's or triple A's, of course, no license. But the FRS radios now, they have rechargeable NiCad batteries as well as GMRS. So GMRS, you do have to have a SEC license. And then your ham radio, hand transceiver, it can go 5 miles a little bit longer. Like it's more spendy, and it takes has power. The same thing as the GMRS. You do have to get a license, and you do have to take a test. So this is a typical range within a city, and of course it's much further. These two, if you're using a repeater. So let's see, learning about our radios. Most important thing to do is read the instructions that come with your radio. I mean, actually do it. Did I do it? No. When I got my radio, the first thing I did was I charged them up, and what I do, I turn it on and start talking, and then it's got all these little, you look on the display and it got all kinds of different little objects, and you're just like, well, what does all that mean? You know, I don't know. You know, I just want to turn on a channel and talk. And so eventually I had to go back and get the instructions and read what these little things on the display, what it meant. So read the instructions as you go through, grab a radio, click on a menu for each of those things, and kind of play with it. So this is a typical FRS radio. You got, like I said before, you got your on-off volume control. This shows what channel you're on. Of course, you got your antenna. You can put in an earphone jack to where it doesn't come out of the speaker. You hear it just like your little ear pads, earphone things. This is talking about a private line, or PL code is located here. Your other buttons talking about you can monitor something, or you could scan through and listen. It scans through all the channels, and it'll stop on if it hears somebody talking. Function up and function down. That's good. If you say, I want to go to channel 21, then you'll hit this function to go down to channel 21. Speaker microphones here, the menu key, the tone call, push to talk is on the side here. So that's the different buttons. But like I said, get your instructions and look at your radio and kind of go through these things one by one.
And Andy, we got a question from Jerry.
Yeah, go ahead, Jerry.
Yeah, okay. I just wanted to disagree with you gently
What?
about the fact that the ham license is techie and all that sort of thing.
Oh, okay.
Technician entry license is mostly on safety. You know, don't stick your finger in the plug, don't climb up high voltage power lines, and memorization of some frequencies. But I encourage everybody to look into it and get their ham radio license.
Thank you, Jerry. Well, that's a positive side to that. I don't know. I had to use a calculator when I took my test. But anyway, all right. Thanks, Jerry. Yeah, it's a positive. You can, and actually, folks, if you want to get your ham license, you can go online, and there's many helps that have all of the tests. I think there's like 150 questions, and SEC takes out of that 150 questions, and they make up like, I don't know how many random test booklets. But if you go through and you go through those test questions and answers over and over and over again, sooner or later you're going to have it memorized. But anyway, all right. All right, let me go back. So here's a close-up of the radio. Once again, here's your on-off volume control. Here's your channel. You can see some of those icons in the back of the on display here, like a little note, and the battery tells you got 2 bars left in your battery and so forth. So this is what it may look like when you get a close up. Call tone, you can hit the menu and hit this call tone, and you could set different sounds to how you would want to have when somebody calls you or something like that, how it would sound or what noise it would make. Your function up and down. The Z stands for it's going to scan, and then it says monitor. So that's what it looks like close up. So in the back of it, you can take this cover off. You can either use the batteries, these are AA's, or sometimes they come in with these rechargeable battery packs that fit in here, and then with the lid on, and you can put it in the recharger, and it recharges through these ports right here, metal ports. But if you don't have a recharger and this dies, you have some spare batteries, you can take this dead thing out and put in fresh batteries, and you can just keep on cranking out on the radio. So that's a good thing to have. Always have backup batteries. So why can't you hear me, or why can't I hear you? What's up? What's the problem with that? So either you are too far away from each other, or there's obstructions in between you and they or them. You could be on the wrong channel, and or you could not be on the same PL code. Could be other responders may not hear you because you're too weak or you have a poor location. The channels may be overcrowded, causing interference, noise. So if so, every neighborhood within Eugene has an alternate FRS channel. So if the primary channel is too crowded, too busy, then everyone knows what their alternate channel is. So if you get a chance on your primary channel, say, let us switch to our alternate channel. You don't tell them what channel you're going to go to, because you should already know what that alternate channel is. Because if you tell them, okay, let's go to channel 18. Well, if you got some bratty kids trying to mess with you, well, they're going to change channel 18 with you. And then they're going to start messing you up again on your alternate channel. So just say, I'm going to move to my alternate channel. And then if the alternate channel is still too bad, then that's when we will get to the PL codes. Also, feedback from other channels too close, overpowering each other. The power, you're too close, and it will just walk all over your transmission. So learning to use your radio, selecting a channel in the PL code privacy line. You want to hold your microphone away from your face, not up close. You want to talk across the microphone, not into it. Talk across the microphone. You want to speak in a normal voice. Don't raise your voice. Use clear pronunciation. If there's an adjacent noise, say tractors or trucks backing up going beep, 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 and things like that, just too noisy out there, and it affects your speech, shift your location. Don't talk louder, try to over talk the noise. That's not going to work. So just kind of move your location, and instead of raising your voice and trying to over talk the noise that's going on. So additional items, we got PTT stands for push to talk, and that's on the side of the radio. Once you are set up on your channel, you want to hit the lock the channel so you don't accidentally change your channel. You might want to say, well, where the heck do I lock my channel? Let me see if I can go back to the So you see this little thing here. This is a lock. Looks like a padlock on the menu button. If you press down on this padlock, I think for like 3 to 5 seconds, it will lock your radio and it will put this icon, padlock icon, up here in the display, letting you know that your radio is locked. So then you're going to say, well, okay, now my radio is locked, but how do I unlock it if they tell me I need to move to the alternate channel? Well, to do that, then you press down on this menu button for 3 to 5 seconds, and you'll hear a little beep, and that icon, padlock icon in this display will disappear. All right, let's move on down here. Have spare batteries, that way you can keep talking. Earphones, a lot of times wearing earphones, it says hands-free, but you still, a lot of earphones, when you put them in, they have a push to talk on the string. So it's not technically, and well, it can be hands-free if you're using a voice operating transmission, but do not use that. Reason being is if you have your voice activation transmission on, somebody comes up to you and says, hey, Andy, you want a cup of coffee and a donut? Where everybody in the world is going to hear that person ask you if you want a cup of coffee and a donut, because it's voice activated. So do not put Vox on, which is voice activation transmission. All right, everybody with me so far? All right, cool. So best practices: organize your thoughts and follow the protocol of using radio and the radio protocols. You want to pass accurate and timely information from the sender to the receiver, or vice versa, or from saying coming from the neighborhood on up to your radio team leader, and then from the radio team leader on to the neighborhood ham. So you want to pass accurate and timely information. You want to transmit only when it's necessary. We don't want to have any type of a neighborhood chat going on if it's an incident that we're in. We don't want to go talk to our friends where you want to go later on today for lunch or things like that. So transmit only when necessary. Limit your transmission time, because that transmission time is shared by other people that may have to pass information. This is important. Avoid using sensitive information over the air, like personal names, addresses, and so forth. Any idea why we would not want to do that? That's a question for everybody. Anybody have a good idea?
Trying to figure out how to raise my hand.
I think Mike's got it.
Someone else can go ahead.
You're the only one.
Yeah, this is Robert. Can you
Oh,
hear
hey,
me?
Robert.
Yeah, you never know who's listening, and you don't want people triangulate you. So
You're correct. Robert got it there. Sorry, Thea. Yeah, Robert got it. You don't want to pass over information because this is non-encrypted transmission. Everybody in the world that has a radio that happens to be on that channel is hearing everything and hears everything that goes on. So be very mindful at what you say over the air. So use plain English. We don't use 10 codes. No 10-4 good buddy, or in my time working with federal government, we would in our the service I was with, we would say we had 10 codes. I'm 1013 to base with 1015 5 times. So these were all codes and things so that it wasn't put over the air. You had to know what the 10 codes to understand what in the world that officer was doing and what was 5 times. What does that mean? So we don't use that. We use plain English. We want to speak slowly and clearly. And when there's an incident, we will have a tendency to be excited because everybody else will be running around and screaming and shouting because it just may be like utter chaos. We don't know, especially if it was a 9.0 and we really got hit hard. Yes, people will be running around. There could be houses that catch on fire because of broken gas line. People in the street and just kind of hysterical. But we want to speak slowly and clearly. We want to make sure that we are in control of what we're saying. We want to avoid pauses on the air. And this means avoiding pauses. We don't want to have a long dead air time, but we do pause in our transmission after speaking 5 or 6 words. The reason why we pause after 5 or 6 words because the person on the other end that is listening and copying our transmission, it gives them time to write down on a piece of paper those 5 and 6 words. Know what you're going to say before you key the microphone, before you hit the push to talk button. Know what you're going to say before you do that. You check that you're on the proper channel. And if you're using a PL code or privacy line code, make sure that you have that there, that it didn't go away inadvertently, or it happens to be a different code than what the radio team leader says, okay, we're on this channel and we're using this code. So make sure you check your channel and your code. In emergencies, we like to use the privacy code, PL code 0. Some manufacturers of FRS radios, they have a function that you can turn it off. My radios, I don't have that luxury. It's either 0 or it has a number in there. So, but some manufacturer may have one that actually gives you an off selection for PL codes. Got a hand in here. I see Jerry. We have to see where it might go.
Okay, so a lot of people need an understanding of what this PL code is. Basically, it's a subaural, meaning it's lower than what you can hear, a tone. And if you have it set, your receiver will not turn on unless it, on top of your voice frequency, hear this tone. So people can transmit all over the place, but if you have the PL code set to say 4, you will only hear transmissions from other 4s. By setting it to 0 or off, we're allowing all different manufacturers, all different phones to be able to work so we hear each other in an emergency.
Thank you, Jerry. Jerry's getting ahead of my PowerPoint here. He must have.
I apologize.
He must have hacked into my computer and got my PowerPoint, know what I was going to talk about. Thanks, Jerry. So, privacy line selector, privacy codes, they really are not private. They're not standard from model to model. That's what Jerry was talking about, being 0. It doesn't matter what model you have, it will work. All the models will work. It blocks out who you can hear, not who can hear you. So that's what the codes do. In my mind, I think it's kind of like a super squelch. It kind of like it blocks out what you can hear, but they can hear you on that. So, and when we get into doing some exercises, we may do some exercises with, okay, let's put in this PO code, and we'll see how people do with that, and see who put the code in and who didn't. And because I'll tell you, if the codes are messed up, it's really like a bag of worms trying to figure out, okay, who's what's going on here? It can really mess things up. All right, so best practices. We talked about hold your radio 2 to 3 inches from the mouth on the side. Use a function or geographical identification for emergencies, such as team names or tactical call signs. Some examples could be if you're in the neighborhood, you could just instead of calling radio team leader, you could just say radio. Or if you're a neighborhood ham and you're calling the district net control, you can just say district net, this is so-and-so. But you could use just radio, or you could just call base. You could say base, this is damage assessment team 3. Or in Northeast District, we identify our ham radios as November Echo 1, November Echo 2, November Echo 3. For DAT teams, for the Dale damage assessment team, they're called Dale DAT. And so they're kind of like tactical call signs. You want to acknowledge the receipt of information if you receive information. We don't want to get in a fight over the radio and argue and things like that, because that's taking up airtime where some other people may need to pass some information, and you're fighting over the air. So we want to avoid arguments. Always know your assigned channel and your alternate channel by heart, so you don't have to go look it up, or you don't have to ask over the air, what's my alternate number? And stay calm and courteous when chaos occurs, because it will hit the fan. So we've got to be in control so that people know what's going on. There's got to be some control out there, and you're going to be the first line of defense and control. So we talked earlier about sensitive information, passing sensitive information over the air. You may be exposed to having to transmit over the air some sensitive medical information. And we use what first responders use, medical first responders, and also the CERT community uses. And they tag individuals that are injured with either a red tag, a yellow tag, a green flag, or a black flag. And each one of those flags signifies the level of medical need for that individual. So if it's a red flag, that means that individual is in immediate need for care. Either they have something impaled through them, or they're bleeding, and somebody has just put a tourniquet on them to stop the bleed, but they need a emergency care right away. If they have a yellow tag, it could be that they've got a broken arm, so they're in a sling, but they are talking okay. They have command of their faculties. They're having a broken arm and it hurts, but they're okay. So they get a yellow tag. A black tag means they didn't make it. And over the air, we say Delta Bravos. We don't say person's dead. No, we say Delta Bravo. If they have a green tag, they could maybe just have a scratch, maybe not really hurt, or they may have a first-degree burn or something like that. And they're walking around it. We call them walking wounded. Yeah, they were injured, but they're okay. So we may say over the air to identities, base, base, we have at 3335 Twin Elms base, we have 3 Indias, 12 Deltas, 6 Delta Bravos, and 25 Whiskey. So you may say something like that. Only people that are exposed to triage colors will know what you're talking about. Other folks will not. And so we're not really giving sensitive information over the air. So this, you may or may not be thrown into something like this, but I wanted you to be aware of it. So avoid stepping on each other. Always say over when you complete your transmission. And avoid interrupting unless they call on you. So if base is talking to this damage assessment team or this medical team and they're conversing and your damage assessment or your damage assessment team 5, don't jump in when there's a conversation already going, because you're not net control. Base or radio is net control. And so wait until you're called on, so you don't interrupt that communication going on. And another thing is to get with your neighbors. For Northeast, I'm going to send out some emails to just folks that live close to each other, so that you can maybe start practicing amongst yourselves. Maybe find a time to where you can do some practicing using the radio. We don't want to wait until April to come up and turn your radio on and try to talk on. So we try to practice as often as you can to get comfortable with using the radio. So let's get into working with pro words. Pro words or procedure words, they were developed by the military, and they were developed to help maximize the information with the minimum confusion and keeping the transmission short and sweet and clear. So that's how pro words came to be. And we use pro words as well using our FRS, GMRS, and ham radios as well within the Eugene emergency communication system. So we use those pro words as well. So some of the most common pro words that we use, we always say this is when you're calling somebody. So they say base, this is Dale Dat or whatever. This is EOC, this is Northeast Net Control, or EOC, this is Northwest Net Control. So this is prefaced to your call sign. Say Roger or copy. Sometimes when sending a transmission, you may send to the district net. You may say net control. This is Harlow, and so as you're transmitting, you may say Harlow. You'll be sending something out. Is a net. This is Harlow. I've got a fire at 3335 Walker Street. And while you're saying that, on the other end, you may hear copy, and then that's telling you that they copied that, and you can keep on going to the next one. 5 injuries, 1 India, 3 Deltas, copy, and then you just keep right on going. So sometimes you may hear that over the transmission. The other side is saying copy. And they will say copy when you pause. Or they could say Roger or affirmative. Or over, pro word over, I'm done, go ahead. Out means I'm finished with this transmission. There's nothing more to say. Say again, which means repeat what you just said. I didn't get it all. Can you say again? Sometimes you may say, Harlow, this is net control. Say again all after Wonker Street. Or say all before 3 India. You can use that word, say again, pro word. Correction. Oops. I really didn't mean to say that. It's actually this. Affirmative, yes. Or another thing you say, I copy. Usually I copy is used where usually this is used where Harlow would say a base a base is Harlow, how copy, over. And then base will come back and say, Harlow, I copy fire 3335 Twin Elms 5 deltas, whatever, over. And then Harlow will come back and say, net, this is Harlow, good copy, out. And then would say out. Well, I'm finished. Standby means please wait, do not transmit until I tell you to. How we doing, folks? Okay? All right. All right. So this is a list of phonetic alphabets and numbers. So the phonetic alphabet shows you how you pronounce it. You got the A, says alpha, but it's pronounced alpha. Bravo. Charlie. You see the accent is on the A, Ra, Char, Delta, Echo. Folks, not Fox. Folks trot. Golf. Hotel. Accent is on tel. India. Juliet. Kilo. Lima. Mike. November. Oscar. Papa. Quebec. Not Quebec. Quebec. Romeo. Sierra. Tango. Uniform. Victor, not Victor. Victor. X, there's an S on that. X-ray. Yankee. Zulu. Numbers are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0. So have fun practicing that. And also you can get get the groups together with your radio and have everybody go through and do the pronunciation, doing the pronunciation that is on there, focusing on the accented part of that. It's a fun thing to do. Go through it. Have fun with it. All right. So you may get into a part where you may have to spell things. Maybe your transmission is a little wonky or a little sketchy, maybe kind of hard to hear, or you may be at the limits of your range, but you don't have time to move closer to get a better, but you can hear, but so you may have to spell for the pronunciation. So, or if somebody is not familiar with it, example be, we have a major injuries at Lodi. And the other person saying, what? And you say, I spell Lodi, Lima, Oscar, Delta, India, Lodi. Over. And so they have something, that's how you would use that. You may have to send a combination of letters and figures. Base, we have a downed aircraft on Twin Elms Drive. It has a Bureau number on its tail, N516F. And they say, what? So if you have a combination of that, you can go with, you don't have to say, I spell letter. You can just say, I spell November, figures 5, 1, 6, letter Foxtrot. Or you can go the long way and say, I spell letter November, figures 5, 1, 6, letters Foxtrot. When you have to do a combination of letters and figures, you may have to spell that. Or you may send a message and you mess up and say, oh no, I messed up. So if you have to do a correction, you'll say, basis that one, turn west on 3rd Avenue. Oh, correction, turn east onto 3rd Avenue, over. So that's where you would use the pro word correction as an example. Are we all there? Okay. So in composing a message, like we said earlier, have it written down before you say push the talk button on your radio. So have it written down, have the message written down on the general message form, ICS 213. And this could be for everybody, because even those that are working the neighborhood as a damage assessment team pair, it may come to be sometime to where you may have to step in the role as a radio team leader due to the fact that the radio team leader, something may have happened during the incident. So you can't just say, well, where's my radio team leader? Well, we don't know. So you can't wait around. Somebody's got to step up and take on that role. So in doing so, everyone needs to know how to do the general message form, the ICS 213. So the first thing you want to do is you want to make sure you give your location and be brief, because we're taking up airtime that we're using, 20 words or less, and don't transmit until it is all written down, until you're ready to go. So we've got, here's a picture of a house, kind of looks like a major earthquake. We got the structure is cracked big time. It looks like heavy damage. Got the roof is kind of sway, and it's located at 780034 Andover Street. And so the damage assessment team is going to send in a message to their radio team leader. So they say, radio, this is DAT 4, 780034 Andover Street, heavy damage, over. So, of course, when they say over, they're waiting for a reply. Oh, so let's see here. That's how they would be. Wait a minute. I guess, all right, there we go. I have to use a wheel. This thing does not want to click. So, and then also you may receive, as a radio team leader, you may receive a damage assessment form, which, no, we won't do that next week or next month. Next month, we're going to be doing a Zoom working on how to fill out a 213 and a radio log. But anyway, but you, as a radio team leader, may receive a damage assessment form example like this. Today at 7:50 p.m., your team discovers a fire in an apartment building. There are people screaming inside. One woman is begging you to help save her baby, and her mother is in apartment number 8. The apartment is at 7452 Iberville. The unmistakable smell of gas is in the air. Your team has discovered 7 people with first-degree burns. Now, we don't know if these first-degree burns, if they found the people inside the building or outside. It doesn't matter, but they found 7 people with first-degree burns. So this last slide, it says it wanted to keep 20 words or less. And in sending a ICS message, we have the acronym ABC. which stands for accurate, brief, and concise. So how can we take this damage assessment form that was written up by a damage assessment team and make a accurate, brief, and concise message that we send over the air? Remember, the damage assessment teams are writing down what they see. They're not writing up a message. So it may look like this. So here's that same message. So the message may look something like this. Today's date, 7:50 p.m., a fire in an apartment building, people screaming inside at 7452 Iberville. These are kind of like in bullet forms. First bullet could be a fire in an apartment building. Second bullet, people screaming inside. Third bullet, we would put the address actually on the subject line of the 213, but here for this thing, we'll say the other bullet is 7452 Iberville. Next bullet would be smell of gases in the air. Last bullet would be 7 people with first-degree burns. Reason why I say bullet is you would pause after each of the bullet so that the person writing down on the other end would come back and say copy, and then you would go on to the next bullet. So that's kind of like taking that long damage assessment team that was filled out and kind of make it accurate, brief, and concise. So why would we want to log our messages on a radio log? We call it the ICS 213. Reason why it's stuck in my mind is it doesn't have ICS in front of it anymore. It used to. Now it's just called radio log, but everybody knows it as ICS 2309. So, but if it's not written down, it didn't happen. So, and same thing for the general message. If it's not written down, it never happened. So we've got to write down when we send a message and when we receive a message on the radio log. And we will, next month training, we will actually go through and do a training on how to fill the log out and how to fill the ICS 213 message out, general message out. So in passing a message traffic, like I said, we're going to compose our message before we speak. And then we're going to start listening to the channel that we're on to make sure that nobody's talking or not in a conversation. We do not want to interrupt. Once we know that it's clear, then we will press the push to talk button. Then we will speak, giving our call sign. This is so-and-so and so-and-so. You will give your call sign of who you're calling, then give your call sign. This is your call sign. Then let go of the push to talk button so you can hear the reply, and you wait for acknowledgement. So now we're getting ready to start sending a traffic out. Once acknowledged, wait a few seconds and then press the push to talk button. Speak, give in your call sign, then your message slowly. I want to emphasize slowly. Best thing to do is have your message into bullet form. So you would say each bullet and then pause. Next bullet and pause. So say it slowly and then let go, pause and let go of the push to talk button so you can hear the other end say copy, and if they don't say copy and you've paused for a couple seconds, then push the talk button and then say the next bullet. And then you wait for confirmation that you've sent your message all the way through. If confirmed and acknowledged, you are done. Then you would say dat for out. If it's not confirmed, this training slide says resend a message. I kind of disagree with that. If I was in this position and I sent a message and I did not get a confirmation reply, what I would do is I would say, radio, this is DAT4. did you copy my last transmission? Over. Then they could have been busy writing all this down. Then radio would probably come back and say, DAT4, this is radio, affirmative. I copied your last, I copy and maybe read back what they copied. And you could, as they read back, you can make sure that it is read back correctly. If there's a correction, then you would say, once they were done, then you would come back and say radio DAT4 correction, and then give the correction where it's needed. But if it's not, if everything is right, say affirmative, DAT4 out. But if they come back and they say DAT4 is radio negative, do not copy, then you would resend your message all over again. Does that make sense with everybody? All right. I know I may be putting a lot of stuff out here, but be patient with me. All right, we got another building that's kind of off its foundation. Kind of fell on this car. Looks like it fell on something in the back or another house or something. At 2005 Porteous Street. We can tell it's somewhere palm trees, so it must be someplace warm. All right, looks like an earthquake. So an example of a radio message being passing on for that, of that picture we just saw. So on the radio, you may say, radio, this is DAT4. And you hear DAT4, this is radio, go ahead. And then you would say, radio 2005 Porteous Street, heavy damage, over. And then you may hear DAT4, copy 205 Porteous Street, heavy damage, over. Then you come back, radio negative. I repeat, 2005 Porteous Street, heavy damage, over. Then you hear DAT4, copy 2005 Porteous Street, heavy damage, over. Then you may say, radio affirmative, DAT4 out. At this point, your message has been passed, and then you would hear radio out. So that's kind of an example of how maybe something of passing the message would be. So speak slowly. No, even slower. So remember, the person on the other end listening is writing this down on a piece of paper with a pen or a pencil. Say no more than 5 or 6 words without a pause. Then pause. You may hear, let go of your push to talk button. You may hear the word copy, which is telling you, okay, you can go to the next bullet, or you may not hear anything, but if you pause for a while, then go ahead and automatically go to the next bullet. Use your phonetics if necessary. And we talked about that there. Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta. Your goal is to try to pass a message in one try. That's the goal. Why would we want to have that as a goal? That's a question for you all. Anybody got an idea? Why would we want to have that as a goal to pass that message in one try? Hey, Susanna, go ahead.
Reduce traffic.
What's that?
Reduce traffic.
Reduce traffic as right. Well, yes, reduce traffic because other people want to maybe get on the air and pass their traffic. So we don't want to take up airtime. Thank you, Susanna. It is Susanna, right? Yes. Thank you. Yes, reduce traffic and reduce airtime. But why should we speak slowly? What's the purpose on that? How many? I guess I already mentioned this. Everything you say to the radio operator is being written down legibly. And we write down, we use capital block letters. We do not write cursive on the 213 or the radio logs. That's the two main ICS forms or forms that we will be using in our radio group will be the 213s and the radio logs. Command posts may have other logs like ICS 214, which is a activity log, which basically logs all actions taking place at that location. Or there's a log showing volunteers of in and out. Other logs showing who's going where and that. But for our application as emergency communications, our main two logs or forms that we use is the the general radio message 213 and the radio log. And we use capital block letters.
And Andy, I got a question
Yes.
from Lori. She's asking, do you use 24-hour or 12-hour time?
Good question, Lori. Thank you for that. We use the 24-hour clock. It is a universal time. I don't know if many of you know about the universal time, which is Zulu time, a lot of people call it. It's developed, the time is developed in England. I can never remember the name of that town. But
Greenwich.
Thank you. Thank you. That's right. It makes sense, doesn't it? Greenwich Mean Time. That's where it comes from, GMT. Greenwich Mean Time starts, that is the starting point. So as it goes, if that's on 0, as it goes west, the time, let's see, that is the time is, it's darker, so to speak, goes east the other way. But anyway, yes, Laura, we use the 24-hour clock. If you need training on that, it's basically midnight is 0, and then it goes around to 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, and then at noon it's 12 o'clock, and then afternoon, then it's like 12:10, so forth, 12:59. Then it goes to 1300, 1400, all the way around to 23:59 for 11:59 at night. Then it goes to 2400 hours, which is midnight. And then after midnight, it goes 0001, 0002 for 2 minutes after, and so forth. Yes, we use the 24-hour clock. That way, everybody's on the same page for time wise. Thank you. I did not put that in here. Okay, so, and records tell the story. That's why if it's not written down, it never happened. So we've got to write stuff down. All right, so this is a flow chart showing from our neighborhood. The other one, we only went to the radio team leader in the neighborhood. So this brings in all the other players involved with the Eugene Emergency Communication System that we were birthed 3 years ago, I think it was. Actually, we were birthed, yeah. Well, the Emergency Management Office, after the last ice storm that hit South Hills big time, the Emergency Management Office of Eugene came to me and said, will you please develop a emergency communication system for Eugene? So we came up with this. So this is a flow chart, very similar, but the other operators we got in here, we got the neighborhood ham radio operators and also the district net control ham radio operators. And then we go to the Eugene Emergency Operations Center. So we all talked about the FRS radio and the GMRS radio, the channels, the alternate channels. Matt Alberson and his way, he set the primary channels and the alternate channels for every neighborhood within the city of Eugene and set it up to where they are far enough apart that they will not talk over each other. Did an excellent job with that. I tried to, but my mind could not wrap around separating that. So Matt, I have to give Matt kudos for that one, Bravo Zulu, because I could not do that. And Matt is already He's going to be working with Springfield doing the same thing, but Springfield does not have neighborhood association or neighborhoods. They have voting wards, so he'll be busy on that.
Jerry's got a question.
Yeah, Jerry.
It looks like you've simplified this. I don't see the district in here.
District, I put them up here in this area. Ham radio operate. I said ham radio, neighborhood hams, and also district hams are in this area. I couldn't squeeze it all in. So they come in under that area. We took this image and then we added these two just to show that how it goes from the radio team leader in the neighborhoods to the hams to the emergency operations center on that.
Thank you.
So where do we go from here, or where do we go if there's an incident? And some people have raised this question. Each neighborhood group, whether it is a neighborhood damage assessment team with a radio team leader or whatever, needs to get together and they need to come up with a plan of action. What they should do if it hits the fan. What are they going to do? Everybody needs to know where they need to go. Where the neighborhood assembly points will be located. And things like shouldn't be left to guess. So if you're going to make a rally point somewhere within the neighborhood, whether it be a neighborhood net control or a neighborhood radio team leader for a damage assessment team or a medical team or a chainsaw team or whatever. If you're a little team or whatever, you go say, okay, we need something else. We're going to rally here or where is here. It could be on somebody's front porch. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be anything, but it should be somewhere that location that is determined ahead of time. You should be visible from the road in case first responders need to come that way, either to take bodies away or whatever, or maybe give supplies. It says, it talks about public space. Well, it can be, it should be, I guess, but doesn't always have to be. It's good to have shelter in case where we live, it rains, it gets cold. So it's good to be out of the wet and cold area, but that's not always necessary as well. You could have a pop-up, some kind of a portable type tent, or they got all kinds of stuff nowadays. The emergency services on the website, they got stuff where you can buy these big old tents. They're like command post tents. If you got the money, you could buy that. That could be you could set that up someplace in a public space, maybe a park, who knows? But yeah, you could set something up. That could be your incident command post, and also the radio location. You could from there you could sky's the limit. You could have runners. You could have a pair of runners that need to go run here and there to pass information, or they could use bicycles. But they could hand deliver messages or hand deliver information. So you don't, there's a number of things, but that's the big area, as we are just focusing on our jobs as passing information of using the radios. So wherever you want to set up as a radio team leader, wherever you want to set up your rally point, make sure that everybody on the team knows where that's at. So for summing these things up, we talked about the differences between the FRS radio, the GMRS radio, and also the ham radio. We talked about how to work your radio, the operation of it, the push to talk button, the menu selection button goes through all the different icons that would be displayed on the radio display. And so we talked about the different functions on the radio. And we talked about the procedures for using the radio over the air, along with pro words, how to not interrupt into a radio traffic, so different correct procedures with radio procedures. We talked about how to create and pass messages, how to keep the General 213 general message traffic message to accurate, brief, and concise. Try to keep it 20 words, preferably put it in a bullet form so you can pause after each bullet, and how to pass those messages. And we also discussed why it's important to use radio communication of what we're doing. As an example of the last ice storm with Springfield, a number of communities losing power, electrical power, and in some areas, Mohawk Valley, and I know some locations in Springfield, their cell service did not work as even their power was out. So they had no power, they had no cell, and those that had a ham radio was able to get onto our emergency communication system network that was up and running at 10 a.m. on Saturday morning of the ice storm, and we kept that network. Our EmComm net was open and didn't close until 8 p.m. on the following Wednesday. Myself and Jerry were net control for most of the time, and we usually came on the air at 8 a.m. in the morning, and we usually didn't leave till about 11 p.m. at night. And so we helped a number of people and also communicated with Veneta, Cottage Grove, Pleasant Hill, Springfield. We passed road information of the different areas. We also passed some family safety notices to other family members that let them know that their family was safe in their status at their home. And we also helped visitors to our town that were passing by that were in an RV park that needed to get more propane fuel because the power went out at their RV park. And so their fuel was running out. So we were of service to the community and the community around us. So that's what we're here for. That's why it's so important to have radio communications. Questions? It's 11:30. Hey, that's not too bad. I didn't know how long this thing was going to take. Do we have any questions? Anything we want to talk or discuss? It's open to you all now. Whatever you like to say.
Yeah. You mentioned get together in the North Kenzie Christian Church in April. Yeah, when exactly is that? All the details?
Okay, that's going to be the second Saturday. I don't have my calendar up. Let me see. Hey, I can do this. Hang on. No, I don't have my calendar up.
That'd be April 20th?
No, second Saturday.
Saturday.
It's the second Saturday in April. Is that April the 10th?
Oh, that's 13th.
13th, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah. Also, I wanted to bring up, this up here, this link if you can copy that down, this link will can everybody see that?
What link?
Not visible.
Uh-oh. Let me stop and share. Hang on. I thought it was going to automatically do it. How's that? Now do you see it?
Aha.
Okay. So this link right up here, those of you that do not know about this link will take you to the Eugene EmComm website. As it says, it's radio volunteers in support of community safety. A number of tabs on here that you can kind of browse through and peruse through. Of course, this for next month, when we do this training again on the second Saturday of March. Yeah, that's next month. You can come here and click on this, and it will give you the link to come to the Zoom, as we will train on 213s and 3 in the radio logs next month. So this is the link that will get you here. And then later on today or sometime, this session has been recorded, and Mike will have that recording somewhere on this page. And I'm not sure where he puts it. Where do you put the recording?
They start off on the news as the newest news item, and then I believe it ends up in instruction for long-term access.
Instruction. Okay, but anyway, so it'll be under news for a recording of this training session. So I wanted to share that with you as well. Let's see. So we got the exercise will be in the back parking lot of North Kensington Christian Church on the second Saturday of April. We will do. We'll find out who all shows up and how many, and then what we'll break up into teams, and we'll figure out what that will look like. I really can't plan for it because I don't know how many are going to show up. That's the key point. So I'll have to wait until to see who's all there before we start playing on the radio. So we'll do that. And then after we play with the radio, we'll have a instruction on how to connect a GMRS radio to the repeater. So if you have a GMRS license and a GMRS radio, make sure that you bring that along on that April session as well. Any other questions for me? Anything that you would like to see different in the training? In these Zoom
I've got
trainings?
a question too.
Sure, Thea.
Oh, on one of those slides, it looks like actually came from CERT. It said, when you're called upon, wait a second and then push your talk button. I think that should be opposite. When you're called upon, push your talk button and then wait a second and then begin to speak.
Let me go back. Can you see the slides again yet? No?
It was just not too many far back.
All right, let me go ahead and let me get back there.
You know, if that came from CERT, I don't know. I would just suggest changing that somehow, because people get, they forget to wait after they push the talk button.
Let's see.
Any radio. But yeah, maybe the next one, perhaps after that. Nope.
I know what you're talking about.
Oh, okay.
If I can figure it, I'm not sure what slide it was.
Starts out with 7 on the top line. Oh yeah, there we go.
Okay, once you have been acknowledged, what it's doing is waiting for and that more has to do, we do that with our ham radio, especially with the repeater. After the person has talked and acknowledged you, we wait for the repeater to drop, and then we go on. So I guess what they want to say is, once you're acknowledged, they don't want you to automatically push the talk button and start talking. It's just say, just wait a second, then press after, in case once you acknowledge, maybe your radio team leader or your base may have another word after they acknowledge. So if you immediately start talking, well, then now you're talking over top of the radio team leader. So I would wait until you're acknowledged and you hear the over button, hear the over pro word. Once you hear the over pro word, then you know that there's nothing more going to be said to you. Then go ahead and press the talk button and start talking. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does, but I think it also, this doesn't, yeah, you should still wait after you press the talk button. Anyway, minor point, but
Yeah, yeah. The key thing is where were the pro words were at? I can't remember. Let me see.
yeah, we all tend to cut off our first words sometimes.
Yeah, the key thing here is to over and out are the main players, I would say. Over means that you're done with that sentence or that portion that you're talking about. And, and out means that you're done with your transmission and of that particular message. You're done. So these are very important. So I would not reply at anything until you hear the other party say over. Then I would go ahead and start talking. All
Copy,
right.
over.
Yep. All right. Any other questions? Well, I want to thank you all for showing up. We've had 16 people here. Actually, we ended up more at the end than we did at the beginning. So those that came late, those of you that came late, this will be on the Eugene EmComm.org page, available later today. All right. Well,
Andy?
yes.
Excuse me, I did have a question that perhaps wasn't phrased as a question in the chat.
Chat.
Let's see.
Oh, there's 18 chats there. Good golly. All right.
I'll read it. When to use the FCC issued call sign for transmissions on GMRS radios can be confusing.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, some say every transmission at the beginning, at the end. Others say every 10, 15 minutes.
Hang on. Let me go over here. Let me get this for just one moment.
That could depend on whether it's a directed net or not. The net control may only need to say it every 10 minutes or so.
All of these things are directed nets is what, let me see, get here. That it.
There's also a difference between call sign and tactical call.
Yes.
You've been using DAT as a tactical call. So people that don't know if they have a call sign or not can get confused by those terms.
For this training, I use DAT4, but each neighborhood can use it, or each radio team leader that is working with a team, they can decide what their tactical call sign will be. I'm using DAT4. So in this example, let me see here, where are we at? Let me make this.
I found that one of the things that really confuses and inhibits beginners is they don't know if they need to have, say, a call sign or how to do it or what's their tactical call.
Is the PowerPoint visible?
Yes.
Okay. Let me go. That's not it. Hang on. All right. So in this example here, is for your question, Thea, about GMRS license. I'm trying to think what my license is, but anyway. So this, you would say radio, this is DAT4, and then you hear DAT4, this radio, go ahead. Radio 2005 Porteous Street, heavy damage, over. DAT4, copy 2005 Porteous Street, heavy damage. 205 Porteous Street, heavy damage, over. And then you say radio negative, I repeat, 2. 005 Porteous Street, heavy damage, over. Then you hear DAT4, copy to 005 Porteous Street, heavy damage, over. And then you would say radio affirmative, DAT4 out. Whiskey Delta Echo 880. That's my GMRS call sign. Or if everybody's on a ham radio and everybody's using a ham radio, then the person would say affirmative, DAT4 out, KJ7JDN. So you would use your FCC call sign as the end all period on your transmission. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions? Oh, got a hand up, Lori.
Yeah, and this is something that the first slide, the first few slides you were talking about channels, which makes perfect sense if you're using a CB radio or FRS radio. But if you're using a ham radio, it tends to be frequencies. And I had a little bit of confusion as to, okay, I'm using a hand radio, and if we're going to channels, how does that correlate? Or how would you address that?
Okay, good question, Lori. Ham radios cannot transmit on FRS, GMRS channels. Ham radios can put in, since they're not channelized. Well, you could pre-program a channel on your ham radio with the frequency of an FRS radio or GMRS radio, but it is illegal. So you have to communicate with FRS or a GMRS, you have to have one of those radios. It is illegal to use your ham radio to talk on a FRS frequency that correlates to a channel. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. I was thinking in terms of a CERT volunteer. How do volunteers coordinate how they're going to communicate if different radios are being used?
That is all. That is done. Like I talked about earlier, when you're doing the radio team leader is doing a planning session to where you're going to rally to in an emergency, and then those things are all pre-planned out and beforehand. It's not at that moment you're going to say, okay, we're going to be in this channel. Each of the neighborhoods in the Eugene, they are already designated their channel. They can either go on their primary channel or the alternate. They cannot venture over and use another channel because they may run into that they're going to talk over somebody.
Well, you use the word channel.
Yeah.
Are you using the word channel and frequency synonymously, depending on?
No. Remember, this is for FRS and GMRS mainly. Let me go back to the channel thing here. One moment.
So they have an agreement as to whether they're going to use certain frequencies or certain channels.
Yeah. Can you see this slide? So, like I said, the ham radios cannot operate on the frequencies that these channels have.
Mm-hmm.
FRS radios and GMRS radios, for the most part, have already been pre-programmed frequency-wise to the channels that represent these 1 through 7 or 1 through 22. Basically, they've already been pre-programmed, so it takes the work out of people that just want a walkie-talkie to use on hunting. they don't want to have to go through and manually put in a frequency. It's already been done for them. So for FRS and GMRS, we just tell them go to a channel. Yes, it does have a frequency, and yes, a ham radio operator can go to the frequency mode on their hand transceiver, and if they can go and put in the frequency and listen to a person that is operating on a FRS, but they cannot transmit to them. It's against FCC law.
So I'm seeing that there's, for each of these channels, there's a particular frequency that's already assigned. So
Yes.
if you're on ham, you can just go to that frequency.
Yes. And in your instruction pamphlet that comes with the radio, some of them will actually say channel 1 is this frequency, channel 2 is this frequency. It actually gives the frequencies for each of those channels, and it will be on that little piece of paper that is in with the radios that you purchased. It gives those frequencies. But yeah, if the FCC happens to be monitoring, which sometimes they do, they have people that kind of ride around in vans just monitoring stuff. And if they happen to be monitoring a FRS channel or something like that, or monitoring, and they happen to hear this channel, and it comes across to them to where it is really powerful, and they realize that that's not an FRS radio. That radio is putting out 10 watts or 20 watts. That's a ham radio. That person could lose their license on there. Thea's got her hand up.
Oh, thank you. I just wanted to say that you have heard this before, but when I first got my ham license and first ham radio, first thing I did was to use Chirp to program the first 22 channels or frequencies on my ham radio as the same as the FRS GMRS, so that because I was only using it, I wanted to only use it for neighborhood communications and EmComm. That way, if I hear we're using channel 6, I can go to channel 6 on my ham radio and just monitor things there that I might not catch on my FRS or GMRS.
Yeah.
And that has been helpful many times. If a lot of people don't do it that way, they use these standard band plans that are given out through Valley Radio Club and other things, and that's fine too. But that I found it to be very helpful to go ahead and I've heard some ham radios don't do that. You cannot program the FRS. The manufacturer blocks that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, if you happen to have one and try it, that can be useful.
And my GMRS, I can input frequencies on my GMRS, but I also have channel mode as well. I got frequency mode and channel mode on my GMRS. So, but the main thing is the ham radio. You could go to frequency mode and put in the FRS frequency for a channel. You may be able to hear. Remember that the transmission of a FRS radio is in direct correlation to the power out. So if the FRS radio is only pumping out 2 watts, your ham radio is not going to bump up that 2 watts transmission so you can hear it. So it's only the transmission, it only goes as far as the wattage that is pumping out that transmission. So the ham radio is not going to help it. Maybe if your antenna is higher up, you might be able to pick up the signal other than what's on your hand transceiver, little stubby antenna. If you got a different antenna that has some elevation, that may help out. Any other questions?
Okay. Do we have your permission to share this PowerPoint and recording when available with other neighborhoods?
Sure. I don't have, Mike, you got any problems with that?
No, in fact, it is going to be on the website. So
Yeah. I don't have anything with it. I think the more people that can be exposed to this, the better for all of us. Like I said, this was our first time. We didn't know what this is going to look like. A number of people have asked for training, and so we thought, well, this would be the biggest bang for the buck, maybe, so to speak. So I was hoping that we have a lot more people. We only have 10 people showed up today, but yeah, well, uh, did we miss any other questions on the chat, Mike? I did not monitor the chat.
I was keeping track, and any of them that appeared to be clearly questions, I did try to pass on. And Thea, I apologize. There's one I thought was a statement, which was obviously a question. I apologize for not passing it on. But yeah, for the most part, those were there were statements, and any that were clearly questions, I did interrupt you for.
Okay, thank you. All right, well, we'll do this again next month on the second Saturday of March. And we will do some training on 213s and radio logs. So that's the topic for next month. So hopefully you'll be there, and we'll invite your friends to come back.